The BTL-B Y-wing Starfighter bomber was renowned for its robust and diverse armament, which allowed it to perform a wide array of combat roles with significant effectiveness. Its powerful weapon loadout was meticulously crafted to offer both offensive firepower and tactical versatility. Designed as a multi-role craft, the Y-wing could engage enemy starfighters, disable large capital ships, and deliver powerful payloads in planetary bombardments or anti-ship bombing runs. From its laser and ion cannons to its torpedoes and bombs, the Y-wing's weapon systems made it a formidable asset during both the Clone Wars and the Galactic Civil War. The Y-wing's primary armament consisted of 2x and back 9-4 or KX-5 laser cannons. These were mounted forward-facing on the ship's nose, delivering sustained, high-energy laser fire ideal for dogfighting with enemy starfighters and for general defensive engagements. The IX-4 and KX-5 models were favored for their reliability and consistent output, allowing pilots to maintain steady fire over extended combat operations without overheating. The laser cannons were versatile enough to target smaller, fast-moving enemy craft like Imperial TIE fighters, but also potent against unshielded sections of capital ships, making the Y-wing effective in both fleet and skirmish combat. While the Y-wing's relatively slower maneuverability compared to lighter starfighters presented a challenge in dogfights, its laser cannons provided much-needed close-range offense and an element of deterrence against aggressive attackers. The durability of these laser cannons also enabled the Y-wing to endure prolonged exchanges with enemy forces, with laser fire capabilities that remained functional even under heavy damage, giving the Y-wing an advantage in sustained combat. The Y-wing's Armament SW-4 or SW-5 ion cannons were mounted in a rotating turret positioned just above the rear section, allowing a gunner to independently control and aim the ion cannons in a 360-degree field of fire. This setup was particularly valuable for defensive maneuvers, as the ion cannon turret could target enemies approaching from any direction, including from the rear. The SW-4 and SW-5 ion cannon models were specifically designed to deliver non-lethal, high-energy blasts that disrupted electronic systems, making them essential for disabling enemy craft and neutralizing shielded sections of capital ships. The ion cannon was crucial during missions focused on capturing ships rather than destroying them outright. The Y-wing's ion blasts would overload the electronic and shield systems of enemy vessels, leaving them vulnerable to follow-up attacks or enabling capture operations by Allied forces. During large-scale battles, the ion cannons were especially effective against shield generators, communication systems, and essential weaponry of larger capital ships, allowing Y-wings to work in tandem to breach enemy defenses. The ion cannon also enhanced the Y-wing's defensive capabilities, as gunners could use it to fend off pursuing starfighters, helping compensate for the Y-wing's slower maneuverability by disorienting enemies in pursuit. The Arakid flex-tube proton torpedo launchers, mounted on either side of the Y-wing's fuselage, were one of its most devastating weapons. Each launcher held up to 4 proton torpedoes, totaling 8 for the Y-wing, which were powerful explosive munitions designed to break through heavily armored targets. Proton torpedoes carried a focused explosive payload capable of inflicting extensive structural damage, allowing Y-wings to target key points on enemy capital ships and installations with precision. These torpedoes were often launched in coordinated strikes, especially during battles with Imperial Star Destroyers and other large warships, where synchronized volleys from multiple Y-wings were capable of overwhelming even advanced deflector shields. With guidance provided by the Y-wing's targeting computer, torpedoes could lock onto their targets with exceptional accuracy, striking vulnerable spots on enemy ships such as shield generators, turbolaser batteries, and engine arrays. This accuracy made the Y-wing a preferred choice for high-stakes missions requiring pinpoint strikes, as well as a reliable partner to capital ships in larger fleet engagements. The Y-wing could also be outfitted with cluster missiles, which were well-suited for wide-area engagements or combat situations involving numerous small targets. Cluster missiles would disperse mid-flight, releasing multiple smaller explosive warheads across a target area, effectively turning each missile into a miniature swarm. This capability made the Y-wing a potent threat to squadrons of enemy starfighters and groups of small transports, allowing it to thin out enemy ranks and disrupt formations with a single salvo. Cluster missiles were often deployed during initial engagements or when enemy fighters grouped tightly, allowing Y-wing squadrons to inflict damage across multiple targets simultaneously. The wide dispersal pattern of cluster missiles was particularly advantageous in dense space battles, as they allowed the Y-wing to strike multiple targets without requiring pinpoint accuracy. This versatility made cluster missiles a valuable addition to the Y-wing's arsenal, broadening its offensive options in battles involving overwhelming numbers of enemy fighters. In addition to cluster missiles, some Y-wings were equipped with concussion missiles, explosives known for their high speed, tracking capabilities, and powerful impact. Concussion missiles were highly effective against fast-moving and evasive targets, as their advanced guidance systems allowed them to lock onto agile enemy fighters with precision. Concussion missiles were invaluable during dogfights against TIE fighters, which were notoriously nimble and difficult to target with fixed laser cannons alone. The tracking capability of concussion missiles allowed Y-wing pilots to launch them at difficult angles, turning dogfights in their favor even against faster enemies. The blast radius of concussion missiles, while more localized than cluster missiles, was potent enough to disable or destroy most small to medium-sized targets, making them a versatile and essential option in the Y-wing's armament. Designed as a bomber, the Y-wing could carry a variety of bombs for planetary and close-quarters space engagements. These bombs were stored in an internal bomb bay and could be deployed over surface targets or released during runs against capital ships. In planetary assaults, bombs were used to neutralize hardened installations, shield generators, weapons emplacements, and other high-value targets. The bombs could also be deployed in space combat scenarios, where they served as a devastating option for delivering damage directly to the hulls of enemy capital ships. Bombing runs required the Y-wing to approach closely to its target, exposing it to enemy fire. But the payoff was considerable, as bombs could cause extensive hull breaches and internal damage. The Y-wing's bomb payload gave it unparalleled capability in demolition missions, where sustained destruction was required to weaken enemy infrastructure or disable heavily armored vessels. The Y-wing's armament was augmented by its Fabritech ANC 2.7 tracking computer and SI-5G7 quick-scan vector imaging system, which provided advanced targeting assistance to both the pilot and gunner. This tracking system helped ensure accuracy in laser and ion cannon targeting, as well as the precision guidance of torpedoes and missiles. When used in conjunction with an astromech droid, the targeting computer could lock onto enemy fighters, turrets, shield generators, and other key points on capital ships, enhancing the Y-wing's ability to conduct both strategic and tactical strikes with efficiency. The coordination between pilot, gunner, and targeting systems was crucial in allowing Y-wings to synchronize their attacks within squadrons, amplifying the effectiveness of mass torpedo and missile strikes. The targeting computer also provided navigational data during complex bombing runs, ensuring that bombs hit their intended marks even under evasive conditions. This sophisticated targeting integration turned the Y-wing into a highly efficient and lethal combat vehicle, capable of carrying out complex attack patterns and maintaining weapon accuracy in the most challenging battle environments. In summary, the Y-wing's combination of laser cannons, ion cannons, torpedoes, missiles, bombs, and advanced targeting made it a comprehensive attack platform. It was well suited for multi-role missions, whether as a bomber, heavy assault fighter, or fleet support craft. Its powerful and versatile weapon systems allowed it to remain a crucial component of both the Republic and Rebel fleets, able to deliver overwhelming force against any adversary it faced. The Y-wing's armament reflected the design philosophy of durability and potency, making it one of the most feared starfighters and bombers in the galaxy during its time in service. The BTL-B Y-wing starfighter bomber was powered by a robust propulsion system that gave it a unique combination of speed, endurance, and versatility on the battlefield. The Y-wing's engines were essential not only for its role as a tactical bomber, but also for its survivability in intense combat situations, allowing it to perform extended bombing runs, dogfights, and close support missions with reliability. Its Corsair R200 ion jet engines provided the thrust necessary for both atmospheric and spaceflight, while the Corsair R300H hyperdrive motivator equipped it with hyperspace capabilities, enabling long-range missions across the galaxy. The Corsair R200 ion jet engines were the primary propulsion units of the BTL-B Y-wing, providing the power necessary to sustain the starfighter's heavy ordnance and rugged frame. Designed with a focus on reliability, These ion engines were built to handle the demanding requirements of wartime operations, particularly during the Clone Wars, when starships often had to endure extended engagements. Each Y-wing was equipped with 2 of these powerful engines, housed in cylindrical housings that gave the craft its distinctive appearance. The R-200 engines were capable of producing 2,700 g of acceleration, granting the Y-wing enough speed to evade incoming fire and maneuver through enemy formations despite its somewhat bulky frame. Although not the fastest starfighter in the Republic fleet, the Y-wing's engines allowed it to reach 70 mglt (megalight per hour) in space, a respectable speed that made it competitive against most other combat ships. In atmospheric flight, the engines could propel the Y-wing to a maximum speed of 1,000 km per hour, making it an efficient ground support bomber capable of rapid strikes and agile maneuvers in lower altitudes. The durability of the R-200 engines was a testament to Cohensair's engineering, as they were built to withstand prolonged usage and the intense combat conditions of space and atmospheric missions alike. Y-wing pilots could rely on these engines to keep their ship running, even after sustaining damage, a critical feature for bombing runs, where return trips were often just as dangerous as the attack itself. These engines also gave the Y-wing an advantage in endurance, allowing it to participate in long missions without needing refueling, especially when compared to lighter starfighters that required more frequent maintenance. While the Y-wing's maximum acceleration of 2,700 g and its top speeds might not have matched those of lighter starfighters like the A-wing, its engine capabilities were more than adequate for the role it played. The Y-wing was designed to be a multi-role bomber with heavy armor and powerful armament, and the R-200 engines provided the thrust necessary to offset the craft's weight and enable it to perform precise bombing runs or coordinated strikes on capital ships. The engines also allowed the Y-wing to evade incoming fire by executing defensive maneuvers and maintaining a steady pace in formation with other fighters. In larger fleet engagements, Y-wings were often tasked with breaking through enemy defenses to deliver their payloads against high-value targets. While their acceleration and agility were limited compared to faster starfighters, the R-200 engines enabled them to hold formation, maintain strategic position, and approach targets with consistency and control. The engine's steady acceleration curve allowed experienced pilots to manage their speed and trajectory with precision, making the Y-wing a reliable choice for missions requiring resilience and adaptability. In addition to the R-200 ion engines, the Y-wing was equipped with the Cohensair R-300H hyperdrive motivator, which provided it with Class 1 hyperspace capability. This hyperdrive allowed the Y-wing to execute long-range jumps and engage in missions far beyond the reach of non-hyperdrive-capable starfighters, making it invaluable for operations in remote systems or outer rim territories. The Class 1 rating meant that the Y-wing could traverse hyperspace quickly, allowing for rapid deployment to distant battlefronts and a faster return to base or safe zones after completing a mission. The hyperdrive motivator was a crucial asset for the Y-wing, particularly in the early days of the Clone Wars, when Republic forces often found themselves spread thin across multiple sectors. Y-wing squadrons could jump into hyperspace without requiring an escort or a capital ship to transport them, giving them a strategic advantage in surprise strikes or rapid responses to emerging threats. The R-300H hyperdrive was engineered to integrate seamlessly with the Starfighter systems, ensuring consistent performance and reliability. Necessity when missions required multiple hyperspace jumps and involved high-risk insertions deep into enemy territory. The Cohensair engines, both the R-200 and the R-300H hyperdrive, were renowned for their reliability, a trait that made the Y-wing a staple of Republic forces. The R-200 ion engines were robust and relatively simple to maintain, reducing the need for extensive repairs and making them easy to service even in field conditions. This made the Y-wing an ideal choice for long campaigns, especially in regions where maintenance resources were limited. The engines were also modular, allowing damaged units to be swapped out quickly to keep Y-wings operational in high-intensity battle zones. The hyperdrive motivator, while more complex, was similarly reliable. The R-300H model was designed to be highly durable, reducing the risk of malfunctions during hyperspace jumps, and its efficiency minimized strain on the Y-wing's power systems, which were already tasked with supporting extensive armaments and shielding. In practice, the Y-wing's engines proved to be resilient under fire, often sustaining battle damage, and remaining functional long enough for pilots to retreat to safety or complete their mission objectives. The combination of powerful ion engines and a dependable hyperdrive motivator allowed the Y-Wing to fulfill its role as a versatile starfighter and bomber, capable of engaging in a wide range of mission types. With its sturdy construction and dependable engines, the Y-Wing could be deployed for operations ranging from direct assaults on enemy ships and facilities to reconnaissance and escort missions. The reliable engine performance enabled the Y-Wing to stand out as a heavy-hitting, multi-role starfighter that could go toe-to-toe with lighter fighters when necessary, while still delivering devastating payloads against capital ships and ground installations. In summary, the Corsair engines on the BTL-B Y-Wing ensured that the starfighter bomber was both a strategic asset and a dependable workhorse of the Republic fleet. Though not the fastest or most agile, the Y-Wing's engines provided it with the endurance, range, and resilience needed to perform in varied combat scenarios, allowing it to serve as an indispensable part of the Republic's starfighter corps throughout the Clone Wars. The R-200 ion engines and R-300H hyperdrive motivator combined power, durability, and strategic flexibility, ensuring that the Y-Wing remained a key player in the Republic's efforts to secure victory against the Separatist alliance. The BTL-B Y-Wing starfighter bomber was equipped with advanced sensor and scanning systems that made it a highly capable and self-sufficient strike craft in various combat environments. Its suite of sensors allowed it to detect, track, and assess threats at both long and short ranges, enhancing its effectiveness on missions requiring tactical precision, such as bombing runs, reconnaissance, and escort operations. With a combination of powerful full-spectrum transceivers, phased detection arrays, and specialized tracking grids, the Y-Wing's sensor systems provided pilots with critical battlefield awareness, enabling them to engage enemies and avoid threats effectively. At the core of the Y-Wing's sensor capabilities was the Fabritech ANS-5D LockTrack full-spectrum transceiver, a sophisticated system capable of scanning a wide range of electromagnetic frequencies. This full-spectrum transceiver allowed the Y-Wing to detect ships, signals, and environmental objects at a considerable distance, providing essential intelligence for long-range operations and situational awareness during combat. The LockTrack functionality made it particularly valuable in targeting enemy ships, as it could lock onto enemy craft and maintain a steady fix, ensuring that Y-Wing pilots had consistent targeting data even while evading incoming fire or maneuvering at high speeds. The ANS-5D transceiver could pick up signals across the full electromagnetic spectrum, from standard radio frequencies used in communication to more obscure wavelengths that might indicate cloaked or stealthed ships. This wide-ranging capability made it possible for Y-Wings to operate in diverse settings, from crowded space lanes filled with friendly ships to remote or hostile territory where unknown ships or traps could be lurking. The full-spectrum transceiver was particularly useful for identifying enemy capital ships and formations from a distance, enabling Y-Wing pilots to anticipate their approach vector, coordinate with Allied forces, and plan bombing runs accordingly. Supporting the full-spectrum transceiver was the PA-9R long-range phase tachyon detection array, a specialized sensor component designed for extended detection range. Tachyon-based detection allowed the Y-Wing to pick up on faster-than-light particle emissions, providing early warning of approaching vessels that might otherwise go unnoticed at standard sensor ranges. The phased configuration of the array allowed it to filter out non-threatening background signals, focusing on the high-speed signatures associated with incoming starships, particularly those entering or exiting hyperspace. The PA-9R's long-range capability made it ideal for detecting enemy reinforcements or tracking the approach of fast-moving craft like interceptors, which posed a particular threat to the slower-moving Y-Wing. It could detect both small and large ships at significant distances, giving the Y-Wing pilots and their support units valuable time to prepare defensive maneuvers or launch preemptive strikes. This system was especially valuable in larger fleet engagements, or when Y-Wings were tasked with guarding vulnerable assets, as it enabled early coordination with Allied forces to manage threats before they closed in. To handle immediate combat situations, the Y-Wing relied on the PG-7U short-range primary threat analysis grid, a sophisticated close-range sensor array that provided detailed data on nearby targets and hazards. This grid could rapidly analyze and classify threats within a few kilometers of the Y-Wing, allowing it to respond quickly to changing conditions in the thick of battle. The PG-7U grid was particularly effective in providing data on the armaments and defensive systems of nearby enemy craft, helping pilots prioritize targets based on threat level and vulnerability. The threat analysis grid was integrated with the Y-Wing's targeting systems, offering real-time feedback to gunners on enemy shield strengths, weapon orientations, and potential weak points. This close-range sensor array was vital for missions requiring the Y-Wing to fly low or close to enemy installations, such as bombing runs on planetary bases or direct attacks on capital ships. By providing accurate, real-time threat assessments, the PG-7U grid enabled pilots and gunners to react swiftly to nearby threats, from starfighters and turrets to environmental hazards like debris fields or asteroid clusters. To augment its core sensor systems, the Y-Wing also featured two Fabritech ANXY sensor arrays. These arrays were designed to support the ship's other sensors by gathering additional data on environmental conditions and enemy movements, providing a broader picture of the battlefield. The ANXY arrays were known for their durability and efficiency, capable of functioning even in high-interference areas such as planetary atmospheres or near large ion sources, which were known to disrupt other sensors. These dual sensor arrays were versatile enough to handle general scanning tasks and could even serve as backup systems if primary sensors were damaged in combat. They added resilience to the Y-Wing's sensor package, ensuring that it retained some level of sensor functionality even after taking damage. This redundancy was especially valuable for extended missions or prolonged engagements, where sensor reliability could mean the difference between mission success and failure. The combination of the AN's 5D full-spectrum transceiver, PA-9R long-range tachyon detection array, PG-7U threat analysis grid, and dual ANXY sensor arrays provided the Y-Wing with an impressive array of detection and analysis capabilities. Together, these systems allowed the Y-Wing to operate effectively in a wide range of combat scenarios, from reconnaissance and search and destroy missions to fleet support and escort duties. The sensor suite's versatility made the Y-Wing an adaptable platform that could be tasked with everything from pinpoint strikes to long-range patrols, giving the Republic and later the Rebellion a multi-role craft with reliable situational awareness. The sensor systems on the Y-Wing also had a notable psychological impact on the battlefield, as they allowed the Starfighter to strike swiftly and with precision. Able to track targets at long distances, lock onto threats, and adapt to changing situations, the Y-Wing's sensors gave it the capacity to function effectively as both a strike bomber and a support craft in larger fleet actions. This robust sensor capability further ensured that Y-Wing pilots had the information needed to evade or confront threats effectively, securing the bomber's reputation as a powerful, resilient starfighter. The BTL-B Y-Wing's sensor and scanning capabilities ultimately cemented its role as a premier tactical bomber and a strategic asset, equipped to handle the rigorous demands of varied missions with accuracy and dependability. Whether deployed in fleet engagements, skirmishes, or special ops, its sensors ensured that Y-Wing crews remained fully aware of their surroundings and able to strike with confidence and precision. The BTL-B Y-Wing starfighter bomber was equipped with advanced guidance systems and avionics that made it a formidable presence on the battlefield, despite its heavier, slower frame. These systems allowed Y-Wing pilots to navigate complex combat situations, target enemy craft and installations with precision, and ensure smooth flight control across both atmospheric and space environments. The combination of highly capable targeting computers, vector imaging technology, astromech-assisted navigation, and reliable flight control avionics gave the Y-Wing an edge in its role as a bomber and multi-mission fighter in the Galactic Republic and Rebel fleets. Central to the Y-Wing's targeting capabilities was the Fabritech ANC 2.7 tracking computer, a powerful system designed to handle multiple targeting tasks in fast-paced battle scenarios. This tracking computer was responsible for processing targeting data, calculating lead angles, and coordinating with the Y-Wing's weapon systems to deliver accurate fire on both mobile and stationary targets. The ANC 2.7's advanced algorithms allowed it to adapt quickly to changes in target movement, compensating for evasive maneuvers and ensuring that proton torpedoes, laser cannon shots, and bombs reached their intended targets. The tracking computer could seamlessly integrate with various onboard and offboard data sources, such as sensor feeds and external tactical information relayed from capital ships or other fighters. This made it invaluable for joint operations, where multiple ships needed to coordinate strikes on priority targets, such as shield generators or weapons emplacements on enemy capital ships. The ANC 2.7's versatility allowed Y-wing crews to lock onto multiple targets in quick succession, a feature that greatly enhanced their effectiveness in dogfights and bombing runs alike. Complementing the tracking computer, the SI-5G7 quick-scan vector imaging system was responsible for enhancing the accuracy and reliability of the Y-wing's targeting data. This vector imaging system provided the pilot and gunner with real-time visuals of target trajectories, allowing them to predict enemy movements and adjust their aim accordingly. It was especially useful in dogfights and strafing runs, where small shifts in target position could impact the success of a shot or bomb drop. The quick scan system was adept at identifying high-velocity targets, such as enemy interceptors, that might otherwise evade the Y-wing's slower response time. Quickscan's imaging capabilities also gave Y-wing pilots an advantage when targeting critical points on larger ships, such as engines, shield generators, and gun emplacements. By providing enhanced visuals and imaging data, the quickscan system enabled precise strikes, allowing the Y-wing to punch above its weight class against larger, heavily armored vessels. This combination of tracking computer and vector imaging system created a powerful targeting suite that allowed Y-wing crews to maximize their effectiveness in combat. For navigation, the Y-wing relied on its astromech droid, an invaluable asset that supported both hyperspace calculations and real-time battlefield navigation. The astromech droid served as the Y-wing's navigator, ensuring that it could execute complex hyperspace jumps, even in dangerous or shifting combat zones. With a Class 1 hyperdrive and hyperspace motivator, the Y-wing was capable of covering considerable distances, which made it ideal for raids deep within enemy territory, or as an escort on long-range missions. In combat situations, the astromech droid also provided real-time updates on nearby obstacles, enemy positions, and potential escape routes. Its ability to coordinate with the Y-wing's other guidance systems allowed it to play an integral role in mission planning and adaptive tactics. Additionally, the droid could assist with emergency repairs, rerouting power to critical systems, or managing engine output when the Y-wing system sustained damage, enhancing the ship's survivability. The navigation support provided by the astromech meant that Y-wing pilots could focus on their objectives, confident that their droid would handle any navigational challenges. The Y-wing's Sub-Pro NH-7 flight control avionics package was a robust avionics system that controlled the fighter's handling and flight stability. Though the Y-wing was known for its relatively heavy, rugged design, the NH-7 avionics package provided pilots with responsive controls, compensating for the bomber's bulk and enabling smooth maneuvering during both atmospheric and spaceflight. The NH-7 package was crucial in combat situations, where the Y-wing's effectiveness depended on its ability to stay agile enough to evade enemy fire and line up accurate shots on fast-moving or well-defended targets. The NH-7 avionics included stabilization software that helped the Y-wing maintain a steady flight path even during heavy maneuvers or in high-gravity environments, which was especially important for bombing runs and precision strikes. This stability was further enhanced by the package's adaptive feedback system, which continuously adjusted flight parameters to optimize the Y-wing's handling based on environmental conditions, such as asteroid fields, turbulent atmospheres, or dense debris fields. Additionally, the NH-7 package integrated smoothly with the ship's other systems, allowing it to coordinate with the astromech droid's navigational data and the quick-scan vector imaging system's targeting adjustments. This unified control scheme made it easy for the pilot and gunner to work in sync, aligning the Y-wing for optimal attack angles or evasive maneuvers with minimal disruption to their combat effectiveness. The NH-7 avionics package ultimately gave the Y-wing a surprising degree of flexibility for a starfighter of its size, enabling it to perform complex flight patterns and evasive moves while maintaining control over its heavy payloads. Together, the targeting systems, navigation support, and flight control avionics of the BTL-B Y-wing represented a highly effective and reliable suite of guidance systems, making the Y-wing a critical asset in a wide range of combat scenarios. The integration of these systems allowed Y-wing crews to confidently navigate high-stakes battle zones, execute precision strikes, and evade hostile countermeasures. From intense dogfights to coordinated bombing runs, The Y-Wing's avionics and guidance technologies provided it with the tactical edge needed to fulfill its role as a dedicated bomber and multi-role starfighter. These capabilities made the Y-Wing an invaluable part of fleet operations, capable of striking critical targets, supporting Allied fighters, and engaging in both defensive and offensive maneuvers. The BTL-B Y-Wing's guidance systems were more than just functional hardware. They were a cohesive blend of navigation, targeting, and control technologies that allowed it to operate effectively in the hands of skilled pilots. In the hands of the Republic and later the Rebellion, the Y-Wing's sophisticated guidance systems enabled it to become a workhorse of galactic conflict, fulfilling mission roles where precision, resilience, and versatility were paramount. The BTL-B Y-Wing Starfighter bomber was designed as a durable, multi-role craft, suited to both intense space battles and precision bombing missions. Its sturdy, rugged frame emphasized practicality and resilience over aesthetics, making it one of the most iconic and enduring starfighter models in galactic history. Developed by Corsair Manufacturing, the Y-Wing prioritized durability, protection, and adaptability, evident in its robust deflector shields, streamlined profile, and comprehensive life support and consumable systems, all of which made it an effective and trusted asset in prolonged conflicts. Measuring 16.24 meters in length, with a width of 8.54 meters and a height of 2.44 meters, the Y-Wing had a distinctive, stripped-down appearance that showcased its mechanical components and underscored its focus on functionality. The starfighter's elongated fuselage was coupled with two prominent engine nacelles, which ran parallel to the main hull. These engines not only provided significant propulsion, but also gave the Y-Wing its characteristic appearance, contributing to its recognizable silhouette on the battlefield. The frame, while not particularly agile or sleek compared to fighters like the A-Wing, was engineered for durability, with armor plating and a reinforced hull that could withstand multiple hits from enemy fire. This made it a highly valued ship in situations where endurance and firepower were essential, particularly in the Rebel Alliance, which depended on durable craft for long, often under-resourced campaigns. The Y-Wing was outfitted with a Chempat deflector shield generator, providing it with reliable energy shielding that enhanced its survivability in intense battle zones. This shield system allowed the Y-Wing to withstand direct attacks from enemy starfighters, turbo lasers, and even anti-starfighter batteries on larger vessels, making it effective in prolonged engagements and direct assault roles. The shielding could be modulated to provide additional reinforcement when the Y-Wing engaged in bombing runs or operated in the line of heavy defensive fire, ensuring that the bomber could complete its missions despite significant opposition. Despite its combat-oriented design, the Y-Wing included essential safety and survival features, notably the Geidenhauser ejector seat. This escape system provided pilots with a last resort option to eject from the cockpit in critical situations, such as hull breaches or catastrophic system failures. This feature was particularly valued by Y-Wing pilots, as it allowed them a higher chance of survival in the event of irreparable damage to the craft. In a ship often deployed on high-risk bombing and assault missions, this escape option underscored the Y-Wing's design philosophy of ensuring maximum survivability. With a life support system and consumables lasting up to 1 week, the Y-Wing was well equipped for extended missions. This level of endurance meant that Y-Wing pilots could be deployed on long-range missions or operate in remote, hostile environments without needing immediate resupply or return to base. The life support systems were designed to handle the harsh conditions of both deep space and atmospheric flight, offering consistent protection against temperature extremes, radiation, and vacuum exposure. The 1-week supply of consumables allowed the Y-Wing to function effectively in reconnaissance roles, scouting missions, and multi-day skirmishes without risk of resource depletion. Over time, many Y-Wings in the Rebel fleet had their hull plating and fairings removed to make the craft easier to repair and modify in the field, a practice that became more common as the Rebellion's need for functional, easily maintained starships grew. This stripped-down appearance exposed the ship's inner mechanical components, giving it a rugged, battle-worn look that became synonymous with its role as a workhorse starfighter. While the exposed systems made the Y-Wing more vulnerable to specific kinds of damage, it also simplified access to critical parts, making it easier for ground crews and mechanics to quickly repair or modify the ship under challenging circumstances. In addition to routine modifications, The Y-Wing's straightforward design allowed it to accommodate various upgrades in its targeting systems, engines, and weapons loadouts. This adaptability made it a versatile platform that could be customized for specific mission requirements, from anti-Starfighter operations to heavy bombing runs. The Y-Wing could also be retrofitted with enhanced electronic warfare systems, heavier ordnance, or specialized targeting systems, further cementing its reputation as a flexible and dependable starfighter in any theater of war. During the Clone Wars, the Republic relied on the clone troopers of the Grand Army, who were rigorously trained from their inception to become elite soldiers. Clone pilots chosen for Y-Wing duty underwent specialized training tailored to multi-role bombers, focusing on operating effectively in both space and atmospheric environments. Clone training emphasized discipline, coordination, and the mastery of formation flying, which was essential for executing complex bombing runs and escort missions with other Y-Wings and capital ships. Clone Y-Wing pilots were instructed to work in perfect tandem with their gunners. This coordination was crucial for carrying out precision strikes against Separatist assets, where the gunner would engage enemy fighters or point defenses, allowing the pilot to concentrate on the target objective. Their training included simulated bombing runs, evasive maneuvers under heavy fire, and rapid response drills for damage control, reflecting the high-stakes nature of battles against the Separatist droid army. The clones' training also covered tactics for integrating with Jedi-led squadrons, whose unpredictability and fluid command style demanded a high degree of adaptability from all Republic pilots. The Y-Wing's robust shielding and heavy armor made it ideal for clone crews, allowing them to sustain prolonged engagements and push through defensive lines in support of ground troops. Although clone Y-Wing pilots were more methodical, their training instilled a high level of precision and timing, ideal for the Y-Wing's role in large-scale coordinated assaults during the Clone Wars. When the Y-Wing was adopted by the Rebel Alliance, the training and recruitment of its pilots and gunners took on a different character. Unlike the standardized, regimented training of clone pilots, the Rebel Alliance had limited resources and a highly diverse pool of recruits, resulting in a more flexible but often haphazard training program. Rebel Y-Wing pilots were drawn from various backgrounds: former smugglers, ex-Imperial pilots, and Planetary Defense Force members, each bringing different skills and experience levels to the Y-Wing's cockpit. For Rebel Y-Wing crews, training emphasized versatility and improvisation. Pilots learned to work with limited resources and execute rapid, high-risk missions, often under severe tactical constraints. Since the Y-Wing was slower and less maneuverable than many of the Empire's faster TIE fighters, Rebel pilots were trained to maximize the Y-Wing's durability, using shield modulation and evasive tactics to survive long enough to complete their mission objectives. The training also encouraged Y-Wing pilots to adapt quickly in battle, making use of asteroids, debris fields, and sensor jamming to evade enemy craft. Gunners in the Rebel Alliance were often trained as dual-role operators, capable of assisting with navigation and target acquisition. Rebel training often emphasized teamwork and rapid communication between pilot and gunner, as their missions required quick responses and creative problem-solving to counteract the Imperial Navy's technological advantages. This strong teamwork allowed Rebel crews to engage targets even when severely outnumbered, and it fostered a sense of resilience and unity within Y-Wing squadrons. Following the defeat of the Empire, the New Republic inherited much of the Rebel Alliance's Starfighter Corps, including Y-Wings and their experienced crews. As the New Republic moved toward a more structured military organization, pilot and gunner training became more standardized, with flight academies and Starfighter Corps to ensure the stability of the fledgling government's defenses. While the New Republic's training retained elements of the Rebel Alliance's flexibility and adaptability, it aimed to provide a higher level of discipline and technical training. New Republic Y-Wing pilots were trained to operate in a more conventional military hierarchy, with comprehensive instruction in advanced targeting systems, electronic warfare, and fleet tactics. These pilots received detailed training on how to use the Y-Wing's Fabritech ANC 2.7 tracking computer and vector imaging system for long-range engagements, a skill vital for patrols and fleet support in the uncertain post-Empire galaxy. This technical focus enabled New Republic Y-Wing crews to excel in escorting convoys, scouting hyperspace lanes, and responding to threats from Imperial remnants. The gunners of the New Republic Y-Wings underwent rigorous training in handling the Y-Wing's array of armaments and managing the shield generator to maximize survivability during prolonged engagements. Given that Y-wings in the New Republic were often deployed against smaller but highly dangerous Imperial warlord fleets, gunners were trained in advanced targeting of key systems on enemy ships, such as weapons batteries or engines, to disable them as quickly as possible. The BTL-B Y-wing Starfighter bomber was developed and manufactured by Kongsire Manufacturing, one of the galaxy's foremost producers of starships and starfighter components. Headquartered in the core worlds, Kongsire was well regarded for its focus on producing durable, high-quality spacecraft systems that prioritized resilience and adaptability. Recognizing a growing need for a robust, multi-role starfighter that could bridge the gap between heavy bombers and agile dogfighters, Kongsire decided to create a vehicle capable of both offensive bombing runs and direct combat, especially as tensions escalated during the Clone Wars. This approach would lead to the creation of the now iconic Y-wing series, with the BTL-B variant being its first major model. Koensire's concept for the Y-wing stemmed from the changing landscape of warfare in the galaxy. The Clone Wars, which erupted in 22 years before Battle of Yavin, demanded more versatile starfighters that could operate both independently and in fleet formations against a mix of separatist droid fighters and heavily armored ships. The idea was to design a starfighter that was not only heavily armed, but also capable of withstanding intense combat conditions, with shielding and modular systems that made it resilient and adaptable to different mission types. Unlike many starfighters, the Y-wing was envisioned to have both offensive and defensive capabilities in fleet combat scenarios, allowing it to operate effectively in large-scale assaults, as well as more isolated skirmishes. The Y-wing was designed and produced under Kongsire Manufacturing's BTL series line, which aimed to offer flexibility and adaptability for different models and modifications as military needs evolved. Engineers at Kongsire took a practical approach to designing the BTL-B Y-wing, equipping it with tough armor, heavy shielding, and a distinctive ion cannon turret for versatility in combat. The BTL-B Y-wing quickly gained popularity for its straightforward maintenance and ease of modifications, which allowed Republic engineers and technicians to replace, upgrade, and repair parts as needed in the field. Its rugged frame could withstand damage that would disable many other starfighters, making it an ideal choice for intense battles. Kongsire Manufacturing's production of the BTL-B model was highly efficient, with assembly lines configured to quickly produce modular components that could be fitted and integrated easily. Factories in the core worlds, along with assembly facilities on other key planets, enabled Kongsire to produce and distribute the Y-wing rapidly, meeting Republic demands for large quantities of reliable, heavy starfighters. The process benefited from Kongsire's established expertise in component manufacturing, which reduced production costs and increased output. With the Y-wing in high demand, Kongsire accelerated its output by coordinating with various suppliers and smaller manufacturers for parts, ensuring that the Republic received a steady supply of the bombers throughout the Clone Wars. Upon its release, the BTL-B Y-wing was priced at around 135,000 credits when purchased new. This was a considerable investment, but one that was justified by the Y-wing's durability and combat effectiveness. Military forces like the Republic saw the cost as worthwhile due to the Y-wing's ability to engage both in direct combat and support bombing operations. The Y-wing's robust design also meant fewer replacements and repairs, allowing it to serve multiple tours of duty despite intense combat conditions, which ultimately proved cost-effective over time. As the Y-wing became more widely used and the Republic eventually shifted to other models post-Clone Wars, many Y-wings were retired or repurposed. The used models of Y-wings were sold at significantly reduced prices, around 65,000 credits, making them affordable to other groups such as mercenary factions, planetary defense forces, and notably, the Rebel Alliance. The Y-wing's low price on the used market, coupled with its reputation for reliability and easy maintenance, made it a popular choice for Rebel forces, who saw it as a versatile and valuable asset in their fight against the Empire. The BTL-B Y-wing's design and Kongsire Manufacturing's philosophy of rugged efficiency had a lasting impact on starfighter production and military strategy. The success of the Y-wing led Kongsire to continue the BTL series, with modifications and improvements to meet evolving tactical demands. The Y-Wing's performance during the Clone Wars solidified Cohensire's reputation as a premier manufacturer, and its adoption by the Rebel Alliance cemented the Y-Wing as a symbol of resilience and tenacity. Cohensire's decision to create a starfighter that could perform equally well in bombing and dogfighting roles paid off as the Y-Wing saw action in pivotal battles, from the Clone Wars through the Galactic Civil War and beyond. The Y-Wing's sturdy design and tactical flexibility were hallmarks of Cohensire's commitment to creating vehicles that could withstand the harshest of combat environments while remaining effective and accessible to a wide array of pilots and maintenance crews. This made the Y-Wing a staple in starfighter fleets across the galaxy, with a legacy that would endure long after its initial deployment. After the rise of the Galactic Empire in 19 years before Battle of Yavin, the Republic's war machines, including the venerable Y-Wing bombers, were either decommissioned or relegated to less glamorous roles. With the Empire's new focus on efficiency and mass production, many of the older models like the Y-Wing were phased out in favor of more specialized ships such as the TIE Fighter. However, the Y-Wing's legacy of durability, versatility, and effectiveness in combat made it an invaluable asset during the early years of the Galactic Civil War. Despite its age, the Y-Wing quickly became a core part of the Rebel Alliance's fleet, playing a pivotal role in some of the galaxy's most significant battles. Initially designed as a heavy bomber during the Clone Wars, the Y-Wing was constructed with sturdy materials that could withstand the rigors of extended combat. While its firepower and durability were its main advantages, its slower speed and lack of agility made it less ideal for dogfights. After the formation of the Galactic Empire, many Y-Wings were placed into secondary roles, such as planetary defense or scrapped entirely. However, for the emerging Rebel cells, the Y-Wing's reliability, heavy ordnance, and built-in hyperdrive made it a perfect fit for the Rebellion's resource-starved forces. By the time the Galactic Civil War began, the Y-Wing had been relegated to military surplus, and the Rebel Alliance began acquiring them through theft, salvage, or outright purchase from scrapyards that had been decommissioned by the Empire. These bombers would go on to become a backbone of the Rebel fleet, particularly in the early years of the conflict. Y-Wings made an early appearance in several critical Rebel operations. 4 years before Battle of Yavin marked a significant engagement involving Y-Wings, when a group of them participated in a dogfight over the planet Skul. This engagement was part of Jyn Erso's daring escape from Imperial forces, which led to the destruction of the civilian transport Ponta 1 in the crossfire. Though this was a relatively small-scale operation, it showcased the effectiveness of the Y-Wing in combat and foreshadowed the important role the bomber would play in the Rebel Alliance's future. One of the defining moments in the Y-Wing's history occurred in 2 years before Battle of Yavin, during the mission to acquire decommissioned Y-Wings from the Reclam Station on the planet Yarma. Reclam Station, a massive aerial scrapyard, was home to countless ships and aircraft that had been left to rust after the Clone Wars. Under the command of Phoenix Squadron, the Rebellion launched a covert mission to recover these bombers for their own use. The mission was a success, with 5 Y-Wings stolen from the scrapyard, though 2 were lost in battle. Despite their age, the Y-Wings were immediately transferred to the Rebel base at Yavin 4 and would become instrumental in future missions. As the Galactic Civil War raged on, the Y-Wing's role in the Rebel fleet only grew more vital. In 0 year before Battle of Yavin, during the events surrounding the Battle of Scarif, Y-Wings were crucial in the Rebel assault to secure the plans for the Death Star. The Rebellion, led by Gold Squadron, launched an attack on the Imperial facility known as the Shield Gate, aiming to disable the defenses guarding the planetary shield. The Y-Wings led this mission, using their heavy ordnance to disable a Star Destroyer with ion torpedoes. However, the battle came at a high cost, with many of the bombers falling to Imperial TIE Fighters or anti-aircraft fire. Despite these losses, the successful capture of the Death Star plans was a turning point for the Rebel Alliance, setting the stage for the ultimate destruction of the Empire's superweapon. The Battle of Yavin would be another defining moment for the Y-Wing in Rebel history. After the success of the Scarif mission, the Rebel fleet deployed in an attempt to destroy the newly completed Death Star. A squadron of Y-Wings, including Gold Squadron, was tasked with attacking the Death Star's critical systems. Led by Captain John Vander, the Y-Wings launched a run down the station's Meridian Trench. However, despite their best efforts, the Y-Wings were quickly decimated by Imperial defenses, with Vander, Dex Thierry, and Davish Krail all being killed in action. Only Ivan Verlaine's Y-Wing survived the battle. Yet, despite the Y-Wing losses, the attack on the Death Star would ultimately succeed due to Luke Skywalker's Force-enhanced shot, triggering a chain reaction that destroyed the station. The Y-Wing continued to play a crucial role in later campaigns, but the bombers often found themselves facing overwhelming odds. In 0 year after Battle of Yavin, during Operation Fracture, a squadron of Y-Wings from the Masasi group participated in an operation to destroy an Imperial Kyber crystal research facility on the planet Ayadu. During the mission, the rebellion successfully killed Galen Erso, the man responsible for the Death Star's design, thus hindering the Empire's ability to further the project. Later, during the Battle of Endor in 4 years after Battle of Yavin, the Y-Wing's resilience again proved invaluable. In the face of superior Imperial forces, the Y-Wings participated in the battle against the Death Star II and the Imperial fleet. Pilots like Nora Wexley and Gold 9 used their bombers to lure TIE fighters away from more vulnerable ships like the Millennium Falcon, allowing the rebels to press their attack on the Superstar Destroyer Executor. While several Y-Wings were lost in the battle, the ultimate destruction of the Death Star II and the death of Emperor Palpatine marked the beginning of the Empire's downfall. The Battle of Endor proved to be a decisive victory, securing the Rebel Alliance's status as the dominant power in the galaxy. After the fall of the Empire, the Y-Wing continued to serve in the New Republic. Y-Wings participated in key operations like the Battle of Vrogas Vas, where the Y-Wing pilots sought to take down Darth Vader. Although the mission ended in heavy losses, with Vader destroying many of the bombers using the Force, the Y-Wings continued to serve the New Republic with distinction. The Battle of Jakku, one of the final battles of the Galactic Civil War, saw Y-Wings serve alongside other Starfighter models to engage the Imperial remnant forces. The battle was pivotal in sealing the fate of the Empire, and though many Y-Wings were lost in the conflict, their role in the victory further cemented their legacy as one of the most enduring symbols of rebel resistance. Following the fall of the Galactic Empire and the establishment of the New Republic, many of the older models of starships, such as the Y-Wing, were phased out of active military service due to their aging designs. By 28 years after the Battle of Yavin, most Y-Wings were no longer in widespread use, with their place taken by newer, more advanced starfighters. However, the Y-Wing still saw occasional action in the years following the Empire's downfall, serving in limited capacities both within the New Republic and later in the Resistance during the rise of the First Order. By the time the New Republic emerged victorious in the Galactic Civil War, the Y-Wing, although a proven and reliable workhorse during the Rebellion's struggle, had become outdated. The technological advancements of the post-war era led the New Republic to shift its focus to newer starfighters, leaving older models like the Y-Wing behind in favor of more modern designs. Despite this, some Y-Wings remained in service, primarily in non-combat roles or for ceremonial purposes, as the Republic transitioned toward rebuilding a new fleet. In 28 years after Battle of Yavin, the Y-Wing briefly resurfaced in military use, albeit in the hands of factions outside the New Republic's direct control. The Amaxine Warriors, a militaristic group known for their old-fashioned methods, operated at least one Y-Wing starfighter during this period. This particular Y-Wing was deployed during an encounter that saw the Amaxine Warriors attempt to disrupt the mission to Sebensko, a crucial diplomatic effort led by Leia Organa. Despite the obvious limitations of the Y-Wing, the Amaxine Warriors used it in an attempt to thwart Organa's efforts, demonstrating that even in an age of more advanced technology, the Y-Wing's destructive capabilities and utility were still regarded as dangerous by those who chose to wield it. While the classic BTL-A-4 Y-Wing was largely phased out, the New Republic did make use of newer versions of the Y-Wing. The BTA-NR-2 Y-Wing, a modernized variant of the original bomber, was introduced to replace the older models that had served the Rebel Alliance. This new iteration maintained the same durability and versatility that had made the Y-Wing a staple of Rebel forces during the Galactic Civil War, but it was equipped with newer technology, including enhanced shields, advanced weapons systems, and upgraded engines to make it more competitive against newer starfighters in the galaxy. The BTA-NR-2 served as a part of the New Republic Navy, filling the role of heavy bombers and support ships. While these newer Y-Wings were still considered relatively old by modern standards, they were much more capable than their predecessors, and were utilized in various operations to maintain the peace and security of the galaxy. Their deployment, though more limited than the mass use seen in the previous conflict, was an indication that the Y-Wing was not entirely forgotten and that it continued to have a place within the evolving military forces of the New Republic. The aging Y-Wing would again make an appearance, this time within the ranks of the Resistance, an underground movement that opposed the rising threat of the First Order in 34 years after Battle of Yavin. In an era of galactic tension, the Resistance found itself in desperate need of any military assets it could acquire. Amidst their efforts to prepare for the inevitable conflict with the First Order, they turned to the Y-Wing once again, albeit in a much more limited capacity. A BTL-3 Y-Wing, which had been in service for many years, was pressed into action during a mission to Spalex. This particular Y-Wing was notably old and prone to mechanical failure, with its age posing significant risks to its pilots. Nonetheless, the Resistance utilized it for the mission, underscoring the desperate measures they had to take in the face of limited resources. While the Y-Wing's old age made it less than ideal for modern warfare, its inclusion in the Resistance's fleet highlighted the continued strategic value of the Y-Wing's rugged design, even if it was only used in the most dire circumstances. Additionally, the Resistance managed to acquire BTA-NR-2 Y-Wings, which were used within the Resistance Navy. These modernized versions of the classic Y-Wing had been modified for use in a variety of combat roles, including bombing runs and strikes against First Order assets. Zori Bliss, a key Resistance fighter, famously piloted a BTA-NR-2 Y-Wing during the Citizens Fleet operation, where it played an important part in the larger battle for the galaxy's future. The BTA-NR-2's durability, firepower, and relative simplicity made it a valuable asset for the Resistance, despite its age compared to the more advanced starfighters of the First Order. Though the Y-Wing was a relic of a bygone era, its role in both the New Republic and the Resistance served to remind the galaxy of its legacy. As a symbol of the Rebel Alliance's resilience, the Y-Wing continued to serve as a testament to the enduring power of older technology when in the hands of those with the courage to use it. In the hands of the Resistance, it was a reminder that even against overwhelming odds, the fight for freedom could continue with the most basic of tools. While the Y-Wing was not the mainstay of the New Republic or the Resistance in the post-Empire era, it still contributed to key operations, helping to take down First Order forces and provide support to those fighting against tyranny. Ultimately, the Y-Wing, like the New Republic itself, was a reminder that while technology might advance, the spirit of resistance and the desire to fight for a better future would never fade, no matter the age of the tools used to achieve it.